Perfect, so it's recording now. This session, we're going to start off with a presentation and then we're going to follow it with our challenge. So welcome everyone. My name is Aoife Hart. I am chairperson of the Engineering Society. I'm a third year mechatronic engineering student in DCU. And with me presenting is Patrick as well.
Hey guys, my name is Patrick Pahati and I am a third year mechanical manufacturing engineer, and I'm also the graphics design officer of DCU Engineering Society.
So what is the Engineering Society? To sum us up, people call us the social side of engineering. Any student can join if they have any interest in engineering at all, but we are mostly engineering students, and it's really a great way for people to hang out with their course mates outside of lectures, but also get to know students from different disciplines that they might not share labs with, and also get to know students in different years. People have always found it really beneficial, especially if you're struggling with the subject. There's always a student out there who's already done that module and is willing to help. So that's kind of who we are. What do? We have a really wide range of events. We try to cater for all interests. So we have more engineering-based activities like workshops, but then we also have social events as well. So we've had breakfast mornings, we've done trips, movie nights, that type of thing. So in previous years when we were on campus, just to show you a couple of examples of some of our events, we've had a breakfast morning on Wednesdays, and that's in our common room that we share with the Computing Society. So even at lunchtime, we've a microwave. A lot of people come in here, heat up their lunch and chat. It's it's where a lot of just kind of casual socializing goes on. Then some of our more engineering-based activities. So we have workshops that we call maker spaces. They're kind of more engineering-based, but they are really just a lot of fun. We've had to bridge and build lollipop bridges, make little lanterns out of peppers. So it's always a bit of fun, really. Then, but we have sporting events. We've done soccer, basketball, dodgeball. Not necessarily what you'd expect from an engineering society, but people have always really enjoyed it. So that's kind of what we've done. Also engineer pong in some of the evenings. Last year, we managed to have a trip to Prague. Previous years, we've gone elsewhere. Obviously couldn't do it this year, but that's another thing that a big group of our members would enjoy. And then more casual, just games nights. And then last year for Pancake Tuesday in the engineering building, the Stokes foyer, we actually gave out pancakes for free to anyone passing by. A couple of the lecturers joined in as well. And it's kind of an extra little step that we kind of go just passing by on your way to a lab, grab a pancake.
So, as you all have noticed, we are all on lockdown, but that hasn't stopped us. So throughout both semesters, we provided more than a handful of events through Loop, as you can see. And on the next slide is full of stuff I've worked on ever since I've started becoming the graphic design officer. So stuff I've advertised would be the games nights, trivia nights, movie nights. And as Aoife said, we have maker spaces as well. They're all put on Zoom, and we cater to those who need help in any modules, and we help around with stuff like Excel, with MATLAB, and maybe even electronics. And last week we had a burritos edition, which meant that we just helped, just chatted and had burritos and just chat to each other. Finally, how can we find out more? We are very active on our Insta, but we also do have accounts on other social medias like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, and even our email. And we have all the makerspaces up on YouTube.
Yeah, so that's kind of it about what we do. I'm just going to stop the share there to answer any questions you have. So let's check the Q&A set. Okay, so we have a question. DCU has a bunch of 3D printers. Can you use them for personal use? The faculty does have a number of 3D printers in the basement that are available for students. They aren't for personal use. They do have to schedule use in with them. and they're for projects. So a lot of the mechanical students do. So Patrick, you'd know about using the 3D printers in the basement a bit more than I would, as a mechanical student.
Yeah, in second year, we have a course where we had to make, or we had a module where we had to make a vice grip, and we had to go every day. Would just be going inside there, and then there's labs where we can do CAD and just make vice grips.
But the society does actually have our own 3D printers that you can use for personal use. So all you have to do is kind of send on your files, and we'll be able to schedule a time. So as I mentioned, we had the common room, but off just to the side of the common room, we have a little storage unit, and in there we have our 3D printers. So we do have 3D printers that you can use just for yourselves, for whatever you want. Okay. Next question. So how long do your courses last for? So the bachelor's degree, so they would last 4 years. But then if you want to do a master's, then that's an additional year. And for some of the disciplines, what you can do is you can combine them all in one. So just do a single 5-year on go all at once, or you can do 4 years, leave, and then come back and do your final year as well. Okay, here's a question. What made you choose your specific degrees? So Patrick, do you want to start there?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Initially, I chose mechatronic engineering, which is what Aoife's doing now. But after first year, one of the modules weren't for me. It was coding, and that's what made me choose mechanical. I'd be more on physical side, more on building stuff, and I think it's more of a practical module if you're into making stuff.
And for me, I chose mechatronic engineering, and I stuck with it. I pretty much just enjoyed both aspects of mechanical engineering and electronic engineering that I really couldn't choose, and it was the perfect middle ground for me. DCU is kind of the only place that really offers it, so I was so happy. I remember trying to choose my degree, and I was struggling so much, like, oh, mechanical, electronic. I really didn't know which way to go, and then I found the DCU kind of had this mechatronic engineering. It was great to kind of see that it was actually offered somewhere. So I suppose that was it. I loved the building side of things, but I also loved all the programming, the electronics. So that's kind of what made me choose to go with mechatronic. Okay. What subjects would help for engineering? So Patrick, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. Well, if it's available for you, take engineering, because what it helped me after doing just first to sixth year and leaving cert engineering, nearly everything on it was turned into a module in first year. And obviously first year in engineering, they will get you through everything, but just like small head start, maybe some applied maths, and for sure you need physics.
Yeah. Another one as well is applied maths. I found there were so many modules getting started that kind of incorporate areas of applied maths. So some of the questions, they were harder, but it meant that, you got to spend 2 years doing a certain style of question that then other people only had a couple of weeks to do. So I always found that really, really helpful. Applied maths kind of resemble the maths that we did in engineering, in like some mechanics, more than even just regular maths. So that was definitely a subject that helped, but it isn't necessary. I know lots of people that have not done applied maths. It wasn't offered in their school. Same with like engineering, they didn't have those ones offered, and they're still doing perfectly fine. So like there's loads of supports, and they take it right back to the beginning as well. A lot of our modules in first year revise the kind of leaving cert subjects as well. So even the likes of chemistry, physics, biology, we had a subject for like the basic sciences that kind of covered everything you really need to know for that. Then, is engineering hard?
Oh no.
I suppose that's kind of difficult. I guess it isn't. I suppose if you enjoy it, you get through it really. If you just kind of have to love it. You just have to be motivated to go for it really. So definitely, if you're good at maths, I suppose that kind of makes it easier. But it's kind of if you put in the work, it's fine. People kind of say it's really, really hard, but really anyone can do it if you just put in that, take the extra steps. So then what is your favorite thing about the society? Patrick, do you know?
Probably just like the social side of it. Like I know like we're not able to go on campus, but having the fact that I'm the with my year and some even the first years makes it so like it's bearable to get through the online courses.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be quite similar. I think my favorite thing about society is just the people, and it's always really helpful. Like if you're struggling with a module, you know that there's all these people, and it's a great way to kind of ensure that you make friends within your courses because you get to spend that time outside lectures, actually hanging out with them, just having fun, and yeah, it's definitely just kind of that kind of idea of like a nice community. Even just going to the common room, being able to ask questions about some code, is always really helpful. Um, Okay, do you need coding abilities for engineering in DCU? If so, do you learn from scratch in the university or do you need prior experience? Is there a heavy load involving programming or coding? Um, so I might take that one just because you didn't.
Yeah, you do a lot of coding.
You don't need to have done previous coding. There's a lot of people that wouldn't have done coding at all. Obviously, if you did do a bit of coding, it's always helpful. I had done a little bit starting off, but they take you right back to the beginning. In first year, you have a module where you do coding in C, and the lecturer takes you right back to the start, just defining variables, like how to do that, and really just very much from the basics. So you don't need any prior experience. It helps, but it's fine. And then heavy load involving programming. So I suppose it depends on what discipline you go for. If you go for mechanical, you're not really going to be doing a lot of coding. But then if you go the electronic and computer engineering side of things, you will have a lot more coding that you'll have to do. So I suppose it is a little bit preference wise. If you don't like coding, don't want to do it,
Mechanical.
go mechanical. And then if you really love programming, there's electronic and computer engineering that would have a heavier load. What is the balance between practical and theory throughout the course?
I'll answer that one. It's your discipline because as a mechanical engineer, there'd be way more practical than the other ones. You'd be making stuff like you'd be playing around with CAD, and our software would be SolidWorks. And as my whole experience of second year would just be in the labs working on SolidWorks the whole day, and then maybe 3D printing stuff and maybe building stuff. But theory-wise, you would get your fair share, and obviously you need to like learn pneumatics and all that, and they're just essential in what you're gonna be doing.
Yeah, like even a lot of the practical work kind of relates to the theory. So there will be modules where for every kind of area, so it might be divided into, let's say, 3 sections and covers kind of 3 different topics. And then each of those topics have a corresponding lab. So there is a good balance that even the theoretical side, if you're more into that practical side of things, the theory can relate into it and into the labs that you do. But then, so it's kind of there is a nice balance. You have a lot of practical work, but there is theory then behind that you need to know. Are we doing a bachelor's or master's? So I'm doing a bachelor's in electronic engineering, and then so that's 4 years. And then if I want, I can do an extra year to get my master's. Either after a break, I take a year off, come back, or I can do it straight away. Patrick?
I'm doing a bachelor's, but I've been offered the integrated master's. So master's for me it's straight after when I graduate my bachelor's.
Yeah, so for biomedical engineering and mechanical and manufacturing engineering, there's an option to do an integrated master's where you do all 5 years together, and at the end of your 5 years, you get both your bachelor's and master's degree all at once. How many people are in our classes? That varies across the disciplines, kind of just depending on which ones are more popular. I think for mechatronic in my year, I think it's around 40. Patrick?
It's around like 30, but throughout the years they will start to decrease. And first year, I think we had like maybe 150 plus 200.
Yeah, so class. I think overall in first year we had, I think it was even 160, 180. something like that starting off. I know the current first years have about 200, 220 across the whole year. And
But as it
how
goes
many people
down,
will be in the class will vary, especially for mechatronic, because I share my modules, some of them with mechanical engineering and then some of them with the electronic and computer engineering people. So it does vary for the individual classes and modules. But it's roughly 40 for me. It does vary though. I know one year there was, let's say 30 in a particular discipline. Next year there was 15. So it can really just depend, and it's just based off of how popular the module is that year. And what kind of careers are you guys looking for when you leave college? Patrick, you want to start there?
what I'm looking for. Starting off, I wanted to start making like body parts, as in like prosthetics. I want to focus on that, but I really didn't want to be the one dealing with the blood. So like I want to be the one making it and designing it and the computer and all. So something to do with prosthetics.
Yeah. I really have no idea. I'm kind of figuring out, it's like, there's just so many options. It's kind of hard to choose one. And I suppose I'm interested in maybe kind of robotic side of things. I'd love to kind of get into that. But really you could go into anything with it. So it's kind of hard to know straight away. Even if you start with one job after college, you could be working somewhere completely different, in 2-3 years time after that. So then after that, what are the job prospects? Really anything. You can kind of there's a certain amount you learn about a certain amount of soft skills within engineering. So there's communication, teamwork, problem solving that cater and like help in any type of job that you're doing. So even if maybe you didn't particularly study that subject when you were in college, there's just so many options for you when you actually go into the workforce.
Yeah, with our degree or with our disciplines, mechatronic and mechanical have like huge variety of things to be able to do. Like even like in mechanical, they offer us biomedical jobs, and even if I'm not biomedical, they will look for you for data analysis or anything to do with manufacturing processes. It's a whole variety.
Yeah. Okay. Then would taking computer science help with a lot of the engineering modules or no? Um, I didn't have computer science, so I'm not exactly sure what goes on computer science as a subject. But I think it would help maybe on the programming side of things. I suppose definitely that side. It might not help as much with the mechanical side, but I think definitely on the kind of electronics, computer engineering, so any programming modules there, I do think computer science would help. Definitely not necessary. There are like, I don't know if anyone in our year had done computer science as a subject going into college, so it's definitely not necessary. But I suppose it probably would help
Be a
somewhat.
good head start, yeah.
Yeah, like it gets you a good head start. Having 2 years doing a certain subject, even just getting the basics of it is very helpful in going into college because things kind of can move quite quickly. So it'll definitely help, but not necessary really. Um, how much of mechanical engineering is physical and how much is just math and paperwork? So Patrick.
Okay, so practical wise, I'd say it varies each year. So first year, each year would have something like the biggest highlight. So first year we had it was a robot. So it was a car that followed a guide wire, and then in second year we had device grip, and third year, right now we're actually finishing up. We just finished up a project which we had to make a robot, and I think for those, I'd say there'd be more 45% practical, 55% theory, because the theory is essential to all our courses, and with the modules we have now, it really correlates with the product design course we have. And maths, we do. There's 4 modules that are maths one, yeah, and they are
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, and they're very straightforward. Just put in the work and you'll get there.
Would you recommend taking up applied math as an extra subject for your leaving cert? I took it up as an extra subject.
I did too.
I was like, I definitely do not no regrets there. I was really, really happy that I took it up as an extra subject. And it really benefited me starting off within engineering, that I kind of, across a couple of different modules, I did kind of see the benefits of doing applied math as an extra subject. Patrick, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, applied maths, it's again, like you learning the basics before you actually start studying, because college is going to be more of a self-learning thing. And once you get the knowledge of applied maths, I think it's going to help you like a lot with all the modules in like physics modules in college.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It isn't, again, not necessary, but I would recommend it. I definitely saw the benefits of it after doing it as an extra subject. Okay. Then, so I want to do applied maths, but my school doesn't offer it. Do you know anyone or anywhere that does, preferably in Carlow? So I wouldn't know about Carlow, but I do know for so I'm in Kilkenny, but I know for us, my school didn't offer for a while, but another school did. So I went to an all girls school for a while. I didn't offer it, but the all boys school then nearby did. So some of the students would, they kind of just organized it with the boys school, that they would kind of go over maybe like for two classes a week, and do it with that. Other people, they did grinds. So there's kind of outside of schools altogether, there were grind centres that did offer applied maths, and just two classes a week. That's why I wouldn't know necessarily in Carlow where there was, but I do think there would be maybe somewhere that would offer it. Maybe the grind centre. I think that might be a good place to look. No, Patrick, do you have any idea?
Personally, I live in Dublin, but again, yeah, our school didn't offer any of that until one of our physics teachers stepped up and studied applied maths. So he gave his own little course in between one of our break times.
Mhm.
So maybe there could be a place that could be a secondary school that could offer that just on a separate time basis.
Yeah, and the way applied maths works, you can kind of do two classes a week, do this like a extra half subject, and you can still manage to do the exam, because just the way that it's structured, it works out well that you don't need to cover all the topics. Yeah. Okay. So what is the balance between practical work and theory in the course and after college? So I suppose we kind of touched a little bit on the balance between practical and theory within the course. After college, I suppose it really just depends on what field you're going into. Some of them would be more theoretical based, and some of them would be more practical. So there's just so much variety that it really just depends on where you choose to work.
Yeah, with theory, that'd be more if you want to go into like research and development, but practical, if you want to be like say mechanical, you're going to be in a workshop, or going to be with bikes, with cars. It depends on whichever you want to go into.
Okay. So how have you guys dealt with engineering online, example physical projects? Patrick, do you want to start with that one?
It was all online, as sad as it sounds, to incorporate the module, which I really wished for. It was all dealt with online. We were promised that it was going to be done, but I really wish we were on campus to do it. But with the situation we're in, it's kind of lucky that we're safe.
Yeah, so like all of our lectures kind of moved online smooth enough, I suppose, similarly to the tutorials. But for any of our labs in first semester, so that was kind of before Christmas, we were partially on campus, so we had a day a week to do any of those labs that we had to do. But then restrictions rose for this semester after Christmas, so all of our projects got moved online, which is fine. Like the lecturers they had plans there that they could move things online. So I know for some of our electronics modules, they organized before the semester started for some of us to collect kits or get them posted out to us, so that we were able to do some project work at home. And they kind of they worked around it really. They had a plan. So it was obviously disappointing not to be on campus, but it was manageable, yeah. What coding platforms do you use at the moment?
Yeah, that's all you.
Yeah, so in first year you do C, and then in second year, okay, well, this is from mechatronic engineering. I don't know exactly for electronic and computer engineering what languages they use, but I know for mechatronic we did C++ and Java for object-oriented programming, and then we also did assembly, which is kind of like a microcontroller with very low-level coding. And we also have MATLAB as well, which kind of be used for a little bit of coding as well. I think those are kind of the main ones. We did a bit of Arduino coding as well. So lots of different variety of like which ones we use. I suppose even at the moment we're using a bit of Python now as well. So we kind of lots of different variety of like different coding platforms that we use. I suppose. Would engineering be helpful for constructions?
Yes. Doing engineering with mechanical, you'd be able to go into like workplaces that will help out with. I've been offered workplaces that you'd be trained BIM, which is like a CAD software for like buildings, but for sure they'll be able to working on some of the software like SolidWorks. You'd be able to have your like foundation knowledge of creating any structure you really want. It's very like fluid. Like you're able to just jump into anything. Even though SolidWorks is just for like small parts, you can build like really small things with it.
We have a bunch more questions there, so I'm going to go through those. Before we do, I just wanted to maybe just give a couple of details about our challenge, just so some of you can kind of work in the background on the challenge while we answer questions for those who have them. So I'm just going to share my screen again, and you can see, hopefully. All right. Hopefully this works. Okay. So our challenge is a paper tower challenge. So the materials that you need are A4 sheets of paper, or any size really, just some sticky tape, or it's masking tape, sellotape, measuring tape or some type of ruler, and decorations, which is optional. The instructions is basically to build a paper tower. So just using the paper, using your tape, pull it all together and build a paper tower. And there will be a prize for the tallest tower. So that's your aim, to build a tower, and you're trying to make it as tall as possible. As well though, so maybe if any of you want to get creative with it, we might have an extra prize for the most creative tower. So if you want to kind of decorate it however you'd like as well. Then to submit it, you just need to take a photo and send it to our Instagram at DCU Engineering Soc, and let us know the height that you reach. So measure it out. Bit of an honesty policy here, so just measure the height, let us know, and most importantly then have fun. So have it submitted to us by 3 o'clock by the end of the session, and yeah, we'll announce the winners then on our Instagram story afterwards. So just keep an eye on that, and we'll contact the winners then directly as well. But that's the challenge. So for any of you maybe that don't have any questions, just have a bit of fun, build a paper tower in the background. You can just listen to us answering the remaining questions. So that's so feel free to get started on that, and I'm just going to open back up the questions and answers now for us to go through the last questions. Okay. So what 3 main tips would you give to first years for engineering? 3 main tips. Patrick,
Oh no.
do you want to start with that one?
Okay, so 3 main tips for first year. Make sure you don't slack, because I know first year for everybody, like everybody, it's gonna be a year where it's like you're not gonna expect to do nothing. You're gonna have so much time on your hands, but use that time to stay on top of things, because I know like all the first years in our engineering society, they're all stressing about all the lab reports because they're doing it last minute. And I know from experience, and even knows from experience, doing lab reports on our last minute, it's not the best if all the due dates are in the same week. So that's main tip. Keep up on it. Keep on top of everything. Second tip, stay social. I joined like 5 societies in first year, and joined most of all the events. It's very helpful, and like college experience, like that is probably one of the main things about it. And third, do your homework. That's really it. There's nothing much to it.
Yeah, so I feel like you kind of covered it. So, definitely be social about it. Join the engineering society. It's kind of make friends within the course, and it's really, really helpful. Especially doing a lab, the amount of times I'd be writing some code and I'm getting ridiculous errors and I can't solve it. And then, I just kind of go and I'm like, suddenly there's like, 3 or 4 people behind me all staring at the laptop and, helping out. It's really great. So definitely be social, even if it isn't kind of within course, and definitely just be social with it. Um, and yeah, assignments do tend to happen all around the same time. So try get, an early start on it, especially for group work, kind of straight away after your lab. If you're in a group, get a messenger group going, get an Instagram group, whatever it is. Don't leave until like 2 days beforehand. And you're like, oh, I don't have like phone numbers for any one group people. Don't do that. I made them up accidentally.
Don't do that.
So definitely don't leave it too late. And yeah, I mean, first year, some of the subjects you'll find are kind of a revision of leaving cert stuff. So if you did those subjects, it's kind of a lot easier then for you to kind of manage. But then going into second year, it's a big step up, like a really, really, really big step. So definitely kind of stay on top of things. Don't fall behind in it. It's first year, it might not matter for you, but if you're doing the integrated masters, I think first year counts a little bit for it. Does it, Patrick? Maybe not.
I think someone raised their hand. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if someone raised their hand, you can just kind of ask them. But yeah, so definitely that, just kind of don't slack off. And I guess really biggest tip I think is have fun. Engineering is hard, but it's kind of it's not hard if you enjoy it. If that makes
Bearable.
sense. Yeah, like it's if you have a nice group of friends and you kind of go to lectures and you laugh around, it actually engineering ends up being quite fun. And even if you have a terrible lab report or everything goes wrong, you can laugh it off with people. But if you don't get involved and you kind of don't end up making friends, it can be a lot harder kind of doing it by yourself. So just have fun with it. Really, don't stress out too much, I suppose. That'd be the biggest tip, I think. Which engineering course would be best if you love building?
That would be mechanical.
Mechanical and manufacturing engineering.
We don't build buildings, but just like specific parts. Sorry if you hear my dog. Specific parts like, yeah. It will essentially won't help you with building, but just like if you want to design specific devices or help out research some of the devices, that's your best bet.
Yeah, so I suppose building as in maybe construction, it wouldn't be as closely related. So if you really were interested in the likes of construction, civil engineering or structural engineering would be really good. Those aren't offered in DCU. But if that's kind of the route you want to go to, those probably be good. But definitely if you mean building as in just manufacturing, definitely mechanical manufacturing engineering would be the one to go, which is offered in DCU. Then what benefits does a bachelor's give you? Gosh, Patrick.
I think for us, a bachelor's, it would help you like stay ahead instead of with comparing to a person who doesn't have a bachelor's or doesn't have any previous experience to a job. Having experience that you have a bachelor's will get you like some highlights whenever you apply for jobs, and it'll help them choose because they'll know certain modules you'll have, and maybe those modules be perfect for a job. So just something to like highlight your CV.
So what made you choose DCU over any other university? Okay. All right. Well, I guess for me, one of the points is DCU is kind of, one of the only places that offers mechatronic engineering at a level 8. I think there was a couple ITs that offered it maybe at a level 7. But
Yeah.
level 8 DCU was the only place that offered it. And but even aside from that, I really like the campus, and there was always really great kind of sense of community between people. Always at the open days, everyone was always really, really welcoming, really fun, and definitely even from joining just the people, the community, and especially the people within societies. There's just so many different ways to get involved that you don't see it the same way, I suppose, in other universities. You can join a society and suddenly there's a whole group of people, and especially then when you're on campus, you can walk around and you'll run into people, whereas in some of the other universities,
Yeah.
yeah, I suppose you can feel a bit by yourself, a bit isolated. Or that was for me personally, anyways. You can feel a little bit alone when you're walking around campus and you don't know anyone. Whereas DCU, I don't think a day went by where I didn't see someone I knew and I was able to have a chat. So I suppose that was it for me. I don't know. What about you, Patrick?
Yeah. The university is, although it's small, yeah,
Mm.
you can find anyone, like one of your friends, maybe in a different course, just lying about, because there are a lot of seating areas. But for me, when I chose DCU, again, it was for mechatronic engineering. Nothing else. No other university offered level 8 plus. Even though I didn't stay on mechatronic, it's very accessible in a way that it can go past. If you want to go to like city center, there's like a bus hub for like 5 buses every 10 minutes to get to city. And for me, it's like another 20 minutes from my house. So that's why I chose DCU.
Oh, okay. So someone said, "Oh, thanks," but I meant, what is the course content like? Not sure what the previous question was, but what is the course content like? I suppose. Pat, do you want to take this one? Is this? I'm not sure if this
This
is for a
mechanical.
particular discipline or maybe possibly mechanical. I know there was a couple of questions before about mechanical engineering. I suppose course content.
Um, for mech, I'll answer the mechanical one anyway. For mechanical, we have a whole bunch of theory and practical, and we have a module here. It's product design. That's what the one we're building, the fireman, um, the fireman device, which will climb up the ladder. We have other um, modules like thermodynamics, mechanics, statics, and then we also have what you might think is not part of engineering. It's like a professional development kind of engineering, which means that like it'll help you get past the business side of engineering. Not essentially business, but when you want to start a company, how you should go about making. We have a module I'm doing is product compliance. So we're finding regulations that comply with, find symbols, and then there's also um, for mechanical, I think it's project management, which means that like you get to work as part of a team to execute a goal. And for our case, we theoretically made phone cases with Carphone Warehouse, where we sold and made a whole project and scheduled everything so that it it can be executed.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Since it was anonymous, I can't link back all the questions to see who asked what. I hope that answered it anyways. If it doesn't, just let us know which discipline you kind of wanted the content for. But even if you go on the website, it kind of lists all the different modules that you can do for the different disciplines as well. Um, what are the different modules or classes in mechanical engineering? So I think
I
you
think I
answered
just
that
answered
before.
that.
That's fine. Just making sure. Okay. Then if you make a robot, can you keep it, or do you have to strip it and reuse the parts? So it pretty much you don't get to keep it. It has to be stripped and reuse the parts, to minimize waste. the lab techs, they reuse the parts as well, so like they get to use it then for the next year. Some of the I suppose material, so sometimes you like have to cut different parts to then assemble it, but there will be kind of base components parts, standard parts, things like wheels and motors that you can reuse again and again each year. So they, I suppose trying to keep green, they do reuse those. I suppose Patrick, you might know.
For first year, I think for everybody, everyone has a module where you are put into a place to manufacture a metal plane. And for that one, you can keep it.
Oh,
But
yeah, I have it.
other parts, we have there it is.
Look at this
Plane.
plane. It just so happened to have that beside me.
It's probably one of the most funnest projects on first year. And yeah, you get to keep it, but stuff
they can't
like
reuse the sheet metal and stuff. But
they're already, you can't really recycle any of that. But stuff like the AGV, the something automated guided vehicle, you can't
that's like a little
take
car.
to home because there's like a whole picket to it, isn't it? There's like a keypad as well. There's a whole circuit, so they're just gonna reuse that.
There's like a little circuit board and everything, and they have sensors, motors, like a bunch of stuff that can be reused the next year, so to kind of reduce cost and everything like that. You don't get to keep it, unfortunately. What leaving cert subject did you do? Patrick, do you want to go first?
Some relevant stuff like French, geography, but also I did engineering, I did physics, I did maths, applied maths, and yeah, the most practical as I could really.
For me, I did maths, English, Irish, the core three, and then French, physics, accounting, music, and applied maths. So when I was choosing my subjects, I had no idea where I was going. So I kind of was like, I'll cover all my bases. I have my science, I have my language, I have, and I threw music in there. I wanted to do applied maths as a full subject, but I can only do the next one. So I threw music in there for fun, and then accounting as well in case I did business. Definitely do not want to be doing.
I just went full on engineering.
Could not see myself doing business, but yeah, those are the subjects I did. Most relevant ones would have been physics and applied maths. Those would be most relevant for engineering. Then, okay, what made you want to study engineering? When did you know? For me, I had a teacher in school that was always really, really encouraging, especially of girls getting into kind of technology and getting into STEM subjects. So we had a little group, it was called the tech team in school, and she would lead that. And as part of that, we did little different workshops. I did programming with her as well, and different things. Even just in the back of her classroom, she had some old PCs that she just kind of had cracked open, and we'd get to go smash some hard drives. It was just, she was always really encouraging of it, and I suppose over time I kind of just knew I wanted to do that. And then I looked at, well, what kind of course does that link into? So it's kind of like, I like programming, I like putting things together, I like these different bits and bobs. And I was like, okay, well, what course has that? And that was engineering, basically. That's kind of just over time I knew what I wanted to do, just didn't know what course it was. And then I found electronic engineering. That was it for me.
For me, it started all the way in first year secondary school, where I didn't really think much of it, but I wanted to do it. I wanted to try it. And once I got my hands down, started making the parts, start drawing out the sketches, and start actually putting the whole thing together. It's like, since a kid, I've just been like, every year I've been getting Lego, and I just felt like it'd be a more professional way of playing with Lego. So I just
engineering,
want to,
it's just professional
engineering,
Lego.
professional Lego. Yeah, I just love building things.
Okay. Is mechatronics as in-depth as mechanical and electrical engineering separately? Okay, so I'll take that one. Basically, for mechatronic engineering, you take half of the mechanical modules and then half of the electronics modules. So I think there's usually 10 modules within a year. I think maybe 12. It kind of depends on whether they're year long or only semester long. But roughly, let's say it's 10 in a given year. For mechanical manufacturing engineering, all of those 10 will be mechanical modules. And for the electronic and computer engineering, they're all going to be electronics or programming or something like that. But then for mechanical, for mechatronic, we have 5 mechanical modules and then 5 electronic and computer engineering modules. So it's not as in depth as either one. So definitely, if you kind of wanted to get like a lot of knowledge about electronic and computer engineering, you go for that module because you're going to get a lot more kind of information about that area. So it's not as in depth, but when I suppose for me, I just loved both sides. I couldn't pick one, so it was great for me that I got to do both, and it gives me an option then afterwards going into, let's say, a master's. I can specialize maybe in one area or the other. I can go more mechanical or go more electronic, but it isn't as in depth as doing either one separately.
If you do what's it called? If you do want to have like a bit of the modules, it's be best to look at the module list on DCU, and obviously we would have like joined modules where we would like just see each other there in the class, because they would like entail some of those.
Yeah, so all of my modules are shared with either the mechanical people or the electronic people. And so definitely, if you check up on DCU, they'll have for each of the disciplines, they have the module list, so you can see exactly which ones are shared. Anything that's MM is the mechanical module, and then EE is the electronic module, if you're looking at the course codes or the module codes. Okay. Is the prize a Fortnite battle pass?
I wish.
No, it's not. Sorry, I didn't realize I didn't say what the prize is. I have another question saying what's the prize. The prize is a Raspberry Pi. I probably should have said that earlier.
Not food.
Yeah. Not as fun as a Fortnite battle pass, I suppose. But that's the prize. So that's the prize. It's a Raspberry Pi. Hopefully it's somewhat exciting. Then okay, I suppose what is the gender balance like in this course? I suppose in our year, I think it was about 25% women. So it was kind of one girl to every 3 guys. I suppose that was gender balance. Which I know it might not sound great, but it actually is quite a bit of an improvement. It's getting there. It does vary between years. I know some years have been less lesbian, but I know for our year it was definitely kind of a bit more balanced than others. And depending on which discipline you went into, it was even more balanced. So the likes of biomedical engineering, much closer to that 50-50 gender divide. But then maybe in the likes of electronic or mechanical, it's less. So it kind of depends on the discipline as well.
At mechanical, there's 5 girls out of like 30. So that's a big jump to like 50-50s if there's less. But I hope it encourages, or soon enough everyone will encourage like women in the industry.
Yeah, like even if there isn't a balance there, you don't necessarily feel it either, because everyone's always really supportive. You don't feel like you're kind of being put to one side or anything like that at all. You're definitely always included, always kind of getting involved. There's so the balance might not be there in the numbers, but it's definitely there in kind of the spirit, I suppose. Would DCG be a recommended subject for engineering?
I'll answer that. DCG, I would have taken that if I didn't have all of my other subjects. DCG, I think you'd be playing with, you'd be using software like CAD, and I think your leaving cert project would be something along the lines of our lab reports. So like designing the piece, finding out what works well, what doesn't work well, and maybe finding a final solution, because that's what every project we've been doing. So DCG will help a lot when doing engineering.
So another question asking about many girls in the class. So I think we kind of covered that one. Some people saying thank you and hi.
You're welcome.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, just as a reminder, we have about 5 minutes left until 3 o'clock. Hopefully we'll get through the rest of these questions. But also make sure if you're building your paper tower to send them into the Instagram as well when you get the chance. Where was I for the questions? What game do you suggest for coding? Not quite sure what the question is there. Patrick, do you know? What game do you suggest for coding?
I've never really played. I don't think I know any. That'd be
Yeah,
for sure.
I wouldn't know necessarily any games for coding. I suppose I wouldn't necessarily have known any.
In our first year, we have our module.
Mhm.
We have the one for C. Our lecturer made his own like game or thing. What's it called, Newton?
Yeah, Newton. I'm not sure if they still use it, but I know for us we had like little kind of games as part of our labs, kind of to help learn some of the different coding aspects. I think if it's to get started with coding and I suppose kind of learn it, I suppose you kind of just maybe there'd be different tutorials out there and like different maybe courses to do. I wouldn't necessarily know of any games specifically though for coding. Okay, keep using this space. Okay, if you did mechatronics, would you be just as qualified as an engineering major? Yeah. So all of them will be, let's say, a bachelor. So they're all a level 8. So you still have, a level 8 bachelor's in engineering. It's just in a different discipline. So there, let's say someone had mechanical manufacturing engineering and another had mechatronics. It's still the same level of qualification. It just means then, let's say if you're applying for a job, maybe the certain experiences or certain projects you would have done, you might not have as much, let's say, knowledge for it. But it meant if, let's say, there's a lot of jobs where maybe they want you to have both knowledge in the mechanical aspects and as well as some of the programming aspects. So in that regard, mechatronics would, even be maybe a better degree to have than just electronics or just mechanical. But in some other jobs then where it's maybe much heavier on the manufacturing side, they might prefer someone, let's say, that had, mechanical manufacturing engineering. But that would be the same as any other way, kind of if you had a job and you had someone who had electronic and computer engineering and someone with mechanical manufacturing engineering, they both have the same level of qualifications. It's just in 2 different areas. So I suppose mechatronics, it's a bit of a gray area, but there are a lot of jobs where they actually value that kind of middle ground that you can kind of look at it from both sides. So definitely just as qualified. And for certain jobs, it actually seems really beneficial to have that as a degree. Oh, I think I answered this. So if you did mechatronics, would you still be able to apply for a mechanical engineering job? Yes, you can. It kind of, especially if you've done maybe some kind of extra projects, people look at experience a lot of the time rather than even just your degree. So, but definitely still doing mechatronics, you can apply for a mechanical engineering job, 100%. Then, okay. Is DCG or computer science more relevant for EE? So DCG or computer science more relevant for EE? So I think that's the electronic and computer engineering. So I suppose computer science would probably be more relevant for the electronic and computer engineering. But DCG, I think that's more of a
Mechanical
manufacturing engineering
yeah.
module. Yeah. So they would both be helpful for engineering, but depending on what discipline you're looking at, if it's, let's say, mechatronics, both of them work out great. But if you are looking at maybe electronic and computer engineering, computer science will be more beneficial. If you had to choose between the two, let's say, computer science will be more beneficial than DCG. But if you're looking at the mechanical side, DCG would be more beneficial than computer science. It kind of depends on what you're hoping to do with it afterwards. What could a PhD in engineering give you? So a lot of the time for engineering anyway, as you go up the levels, it tends to be if you want to do teaching. That's when a lot of the time, people kind of move up and say, oh, I'll do a master's, I'll do a PhD. A lot of the time that's when you're looking to, become a lecturer, you want to be a professor. And if you're looking just to get into work, you can kind of straight away after level 8, even after level 7, you can be offered jobs straight away and kind of work yourself up then with the ladder. So a lot of the time, this is just a generalization. It obviously doesn't apply to everyone, but it is a lot of the time those doing PhDs in engineering are looking to do lecturing. But I will say that for a level 9, so that's a master's, that's kind of the 1 year extra after the bachelor's. If you want to be credited Engineers Ireland, and so be a chartered engineer with Engineers Ireland, you need to have a level 9 qualification. It used to be a level 8, but now since more and more people are getting level 8s, they push it up to level 9. So it's one of those requirements. So if you're looking to be a chartered engineer, that's kind of one of the steps, but that's only your level 9, so your master's, that's not even PhD. So do you have anything to add there, Patrick?
Yeah, PhD is basically just anything you want to do with lecturing. Especially, I think I'm not too sure if it's like research and development, but if it's more on the research side, you're focusing your efforts on researching and finding out what different stuff for your thesis, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's basically it. Also, it just turned 3, so
Yeah, just turned 3. So I think I pretty much answered all the questions. I see that Christine's answering some of them in the chat as well. There's just this one last question, I think that we'll just answer here. Is there much biology in biomechanical engineering? So that's biomedical engineering. I'm not sure how much biology there is involved. Do you know, Patrick?
biology, a lot. You
Oh,
have courses. I have a friend who's in biology
mhm.
or in biomedical engineering, and she is doing. I know in first year everyone has to do in basic sciences of engineering. We all have to do a bit of physics, a bit of biology, and a bit of like biology. Yeah, the main sub physics. Yeah, but biomechanical, for third year you do also get put into um, modules with biology students. I know that they get a lot of work, but it is essential for what they're doing and making pieces.
Yeah, biomedical engineering is it's split across the School of Mechanical Engineering, and then also the School of one of the School of Sciences as well. So
Yeah, we
yeah,
have loads of modules with
we
them.
do kind of a lot more of that sciencey and biology side of things. If you go to the DCU website, you'll be able to find with the course codes, you'll be able to find exactly which modules they do, and you kind of maybe will get a bigger idea of which sciences they kind of cover. But yeah, they would have. And then last question is just, where will the recording be posted? I'm not sure. Anya or Christine, do you know where the recording will be posted?
The recording will be posted. It'll be up by tomorrow, and it will be on the DCU Engineers Week website. It's a dedicated webpage. If you just Google DCU Engineers Week, it will come up.
Thanks, Anya. All right. So those are all of our questions. I went a little bit over there, but that's it. Yeah, so definitely if you took part in our paper tower challenge, make sure you submit your photos and we'll announce the winners on our Instagram story with a chance of winning prize, and we'll contact the winners then directly as well to organize getting their prizes to them. And if you have any other questions, feel free just to reach out to the society. You know, we're kind of active on any of our social media or engineering. So on Instagram, it's at DCU Engineering Soc. Same for Facebook, same for our email, dcuengineeringsoc@gmail.com. So just reach out to us on any of those and we'll be able to answer any questions you have. Okay.
How long will be accepting requests? Because there's loads there already. There's 4 pictures of the paper towers.
Yeah, so I suppose we'll give it another kind of like if people are still kind of finishing up their tires, we'll kind of like accept responses for another 10 minutes or so, just to make sure everyone kind of gets their photos in, and that's fine. And then we'll announce it afterwards. We'll kind of judge them and everything like that. So, but that's it. Thanks everyone for coming. And I hope you had fun. I hope you're able to get all of your questions answered. Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Good luck, guys. Good luck with everything.